Sneaky, I just noticed that the stock motor's not at 540, it's an F540. Alright, so on my quest for more speed, there's a few things I need to do here. Now this stock motor, it's a 3650, 3800 kV motor, pretty decent specs, pretty quick, 45 miles an hour on 3S, 30 miles an hour on 2S. But I want something quite a bit faster. So what I have here is the XTeam 3650, same sized motor, but 5400 kV. So this thing's gonna spin a lot faster. And it should add maybe 15 miles an hour or so to the top speed of the car. This thing has been a workhorse in my other cars. It's gone over 60 miles an hour in a vintage truck of mine. So we'll see what it does in here. I'm expecting this truck to get above 50 miles an hour for sure. So I had to get a few hop-up parts. I tried to do this modification before and I could not get the pinion off this motor. It was just, I don't know, glued on there or something. So I would really suggest if you're going to replace the motor, you just go ahead and order a 0.6 mod 16 tooth pinion gear. I got a stock one from HBX. Huge thank you for HBX for hooking me up with these parts here, so I did not have to source them all myself. But here is the stock pinion gear, again a 16 tooth 0.6 mod. I'll put a link in the video description where you can get an aftermarket one on AMain. I also could not remove the stock motor mount. The screws into the motor seem to be glued as well. I really cranked on the thing and I could not get it off, so I just bought a new one. I didn't want to tear anything up inside of the car. And I also got two sets of screws. These should replace the motor mount screws, so these should allow me to screw this motor mount. I only need two of them for now, but definitely will have other projects I can use these. And then I also bought this set. I didn't buy them, but I got this set of screws here because I had a problem with the screws that hold this plate in place over the motor. These screws were stripping. The first time I removed them, they were really tight, and I was worried I wouldn't be able to get them back in there. I did run this car one time since I was messing around with it, so I think I was able to get them back in, but it's real iffy if I want to be able to keep doing it over and over again. So I would recommend getting yourself a set of these screws just to be safe, or whatever size these are. You can look in the manual and match them up. So I'm going to go ahead and use new screws here. Now, when I did the battery box modification, link in the video description, so I could fit a bigger, more powerful battery in here, I moved the ESC over here. This is the stock unit, and it was the first time I ever used silicone to stick the ESC down. Normally I use 3M double-sided tape. However, sticking it on top of the servo posed an issue. It just would not stick. Here's a servo mount here, and as you can see, it doesn't offer a whole lot of footprint or a whole lot of area for that double-sided tape to stick. So I just used aquarium seal I had laying around. It's a silicone caulk basically, and I wasn't sure how well it would hold it. I'd read some things saying it wasn't quite as strong as Goo Gone, but I flipped this car quite a few times and it stayed in place. And off camera a minute ago, I was trying to see how well it was stuck on here. And I would say pretty darn well. Honestly, I wouldn't want it stuck on here any better, because it's taking a little effort to get this off of here. But I think it's going to come off without too much drama. Just going to have to work at this a little more. And there we go. So I'm going to have to work this off of here, and maybe I'll peel this off as well. But it did a nice job of sticking it onto the servo mount here, because it's not a flush surface. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop these motor wires off. Oh, that's cute. I'm going to go ahead and also remove the ESC wire from the receiver. I'm actually going to run a completely new receiver with better range than this. This gets 400 feet, maybe 450 is really pushing it, but I'm going to run the LDARC transmitter and receiver. This thing has a range over 700 feet, which should be enough to get me well above 50 or even 60 miles an hour, whereas this one, 45 miles an hour was about the best I could do, and then I started to become kind of range limited. I'm going to have to go ahead and cut this zip tie. The stock adhesive just was not working for me, so I had to do something different, and I just did a zip tie here. So that's popped off, and there we go. The ESC is out. Now, what ESC am I going to use, you might ask? I have a new sponsor, ZTW, who's sending me out a 120 amp ESC. I'm really excited to use that instead of a hobby wing. A, because I'm not familiar with it, and they sound good, and they have a lot of features, a lot of adjustability, and B, hobby wing doesn't work with small channels like mine, which I find really annoying. I know channels like mine, I have a lot of YouTube friends as well that make excellent content, and it would only take the sales of a couple of ESCs to make it worth their while, but it seems to me they can't see the forest through the trees. But big thank you to ZTW for working with me, and provided that this ESC holds up and runs well, I'm definitely going to be using it in a lot of my future builds, and you know, I'll let you guys know my thoughts as I get some time running it. We'll go ahead and pull out this servo wire as well, and the stock receiver is held on by some double-sided tape, so I'm going to go ahead and pop this off of here as well. Now let's see if I can get these screws back out of here. Yeah, they're not biting as hard as they were originally, which is encouraging, but these are really deep down in here. So if they were to strip, it would be a nightmare trying to, you know, get them out. So I really don't want that to happen. Being as cheap as I am, I might actually save these screws, but I'm just not going to use them somewhere where if they do strip, it's going to be a huge problem, big headache. So pull these bad boys out of here. Just to confirm here, these are the same length as the ones that I got to replace them, so that's perfect. Alright, so I have those 4 screws removed, and this should just pop up like that, and then we can look in here and inspect the gears. I've done a ton of running on here, but so far so good. And to remove the motor, you simply just slide it out. This groove here for the motor mount just slides in here. I'm going to clean this up a little bit off camera, but again, I could not remove these screws. I cranked on them as hard as I could, and they were not coming out. You know, I was just thinking, I don't have this gasket thing here. Shit, well, hopefully I won't need it, or maybe I can rig up something. Damn, didn't think about that. So if you're doing this, you might want to order a replacement one of these red pieces here. I don't know how critical it is, but I imagine it's there for a reason. That motor pad, it's a P101. So on the motor mount, you'll notice that there's a 14 and a 16 on it. We're using the 16 tooth, the stock pinion gear. Here's the stock motor, and you see it says 16 right there. So I'm going to go ahead and mount it the same way. The flat part, the wider flat part, the wires are there. So here are my wires, 16, and the wider flat part. So I'm going to screw it in just like that. And while I'm at it, I'm just going to put a little bit of the blue thread locker on here. right. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the new pinion gear on here. Do a little bit of Loctite on here. I may actually have to come back and do this with the red. On my other HBX car, the pinion kept coming loose. So hopefully this holds. And I'm just gonna eyeball it for now. Looking at the old motor, it's pretty much even with the plastic piece there, maybe sticking out slightly. So we'll do something like right there. I think that looks pretty good. Put it back in here. Just slide it right in the groove. And the mesh looks perfect. Look at that. Very nice. So now all I have to do is put the cover back on with some new screws. I kept bumping the camera, but those screws went in nicely and I did not strip them at all. So I would definitely recommend getting some extra screws if you don't already have the correct size. Now, I don't have any of the special conductive grease that you're supposed to use with these heat sinks, but I'm just gonna go ahead for now and pop it on here. There we go. Sneaky, sneaky. I just noticed that the stock motor is not a 540, it's an F540. It's a 380 motor inside there. The can's a 380 sized motor. You can see the fins here. Extend and make it a 540 sized motor. So this motor, don't get me wrong, was pretty darn powerful, but this one should have way more torque, which really isn't needed, in addition to the extra top end. So looking forward to that. One thing that I'm getting a little uneasy about is this motor has a little play in it when I pull on it. Hopefully that's not enough to cause an issue. I didn't notice the stock one doing that, although I don't really recall pulling on it like that either. Maybe I'll pop this back out and throw the old one back in and see if there is truly a difference. Alright, well, it looks like that pad is actually a critical piece. I put the stock motor back in there and it did not have the amount of play that this does. And when I'm looking really close in there, it appears that, yeah, the pad is going to take up some of that space in there and maybe make the motor not move around so much. Also, this motor design, it tapers at the end, whereas the stock motor was completely flat, giving it a larger surface to mesh against the plastic here. So I don't know, I'm going to get one of those felt pads and see if it takes up the slack, and if it doesn't, this type of motor with that end bell area, the end of the end plate there where it comes in, might not be the best application for this truck, but we'll see. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and take this cover back off now that I have motor pads. These here are made by Red Cat. HBX did not seem to have any. These are really cheap, they're like $1.80. P101 directly from Red Cat, but the shipping was $4 or $5, which kind of sucks. I'm going to pop this motor back out and see if these motor pads help it out. I got to remove this plate though again first, so I can remove the tape that I put here. Now these motor pads, they do come in a 4-pack and they look like the right size. Now again, you can see because this motor end plate here pinches in a little bit, there's a little lip where the pad's bigger than the motor, but hopefully this will help the motor seat in here better and have less play. I can already tell that's better. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the cover back on here. All right, now the final test. Yeah, there's almost no play. So without this pad on here, it just does not mesh well to the mating surface. So very good. Now I have a Hobby Wing ESC that's 120 amps that would fit in here. 60 amps may be just enough, but I think it's safer to go with 120. But I'm going to run my brand new ZTW 4S capable ESC in here. It's a little big for this application. They do make a 60 amp, which is smaller, but this will just barely fit in here. There's just enough room for the servo to move. And on the other side, there's just enough room to clear the motor. So I'm going to give this a shot. It also clears the body. Now, last time I installed an ESC on here, I used aquarium silicone sealant because my 3M tape will not stick on here well enough. So this time I think I'm going to try Shoe Goo. I've heard other people say it's good. I'm going to give Shoe Goo a try and see how this holds. I'm just going to use a little dot because I'm afraid it might stick on there a little too well, but we'll see. Hopefully I don't regret this. So again, I'm just going to put a dot on here, something like that. I think we'll probably hold it just fine. Now I'm going to go ahead and install my LDARC receiver. This thing's been great and will provide me with several hundred feet more range than the stock receiver did. So I'm going to go ahead and just Velcro this on, and I suppose I'll put it like right about here. Looks good. And here is the steering servo. So this is going to go right here in slot number 1. And then the ESC wire here is going to go in slot number 2. The black wire or the dark wires are going to go towards this side here. Now for the order of the motor wires, I'm just going to have to give a good guess here. I'm going to go with this setup, and if it's wrong, I'll fix it later on. So now I'm going to go ahead and mount the on-off switch for the ESC here. All right, I will pretty up these wires later on, but I'm quickly going to throw a battery in here and just make sure that things are running the way they should. All right, to test this car out, I'm just going to pop this Superior battery in here and go ahead and connect it. Just make sure everything works. I'll go ahead and turn on my LDARC transmitter, and then I'll go ahead and hit the power button here on the ESC. Forward is going forward, so I think we're ready to go. And that thing should rip really good. Well, the wires are way too long, but I'm not going to trim them. Because I'm going to use this ESC in some other cars. So I certainly could shorten this up a lot and pretty it up, but it'll work well enough for the runs I'm going to do in this. Well, there we go. This thing is ready to rip. It should go 50 plus miles an hour. It may even reach 60 miles an hour, which would be awesome. But I'm really excited to try this combo out. This motor I have in here, the XTeam 3650 sized motor, is 5400 kV. Should provide, I think it was about 25% more torque than the motor that was in here originally. The original motor was not a 540, it was an F540. So it's actually the size of a 380 motor. So this one will have way more torque, and it'll spin about 35% faster. So the combination should make this thing just ridiculously fast. I might go a little gentle on the throttle, ease into it, and see if I can get this thing up to, I'll make my goal 55 miles an hour, but 60 would be awesome. Hope to do a running video in the next couple days, and until then, take care everyone. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.